So this is that one about the assisted dying bill is a bombshell. Actually, a bombshell would probably assist you with dying, but it's set to be rushed into law by Keir Starmer's Labour within weeks. So a deeply divisive vote to legalise assisted dying could be held within weeks after Sir Keir Starmer backed plans to fast-track it through the Commons. The Mail on Sunday understands. It's not, seen the evidence, but it's been told. So they're going to have a vote before Christmas, and this could be one of the biggest social changes in the UK since the Abortion Act in 1967. This is sort of like abortion, but for old people. You didn't want that baby. Well, do you want this granddad? So this would be a law to allow terminally ill adults with a life expectancy of less than 6 months to end their lives with medical help. But that's how it starts. Within about 2 weeks, it'll be 22-year-olds being killed with shovels by the NHS. It's mental. This is what happened in Canada.
Don't be stupid. We can't afford shovels. I must admit, I didn't know about the 6 months. Is that new? That's passed me by until now, the 6 months.
That sounds like a sort of, something they're saying to sort of make it palatable to say.
Well, it does, doesn't it? Because if you'd only got 6 months, that's a different thing, isn't it, to the idea of somebody becoming a burden and ending their life for that reason. But I tend to agree with Leo. It's a slippery slope, isn't it, Steve?
Well, all of these details aren't there yet anyway. This is the thing that's being rushed through is a debate on it and a vote on it. So actually the details would be to be hammered out. The rushed through is simply, like, this was promised before the election that Labour were going to give MPs a vote on this. It wasn't expected to be before Christmas, and now it is. And the word rushed can be thrown in there. They're rushing in the law. No, they're bringing forward a debate on this issue. I've always been of the opinion that when you hear these stories of people who they have to go to Switzerland sooner rather than later because they don't want their spouse to be sent to prison for murder, that's different to what you end up talking about if you're talking about Canada. Surely it's not beyond the wit of man to be able to put restrictions in, to put actually the details on this, to make it the appropriate bill. Now, just because Canada didn't manage it, it's not looking good, is it?
Canada's a reasonable country run by adults.
That's not what you were saying before.
If they can't put these restrictions in, I mean, Keir Starmer, his entire regime so far has just been, like, I'm watching the ceiling cave in, and you're sitting here saying it's fine. Everything's on fire. It's absolutely insane. Like in Canada, there was a 21-year-old. All he had was he had diabetes and depression, and his mother discovered that he'd made himself eligible for assisted dying just by opening his mail. I mean, he also had a nosy mother. But just by opening letters that were addressed to him, found out that he was going to be killed. And it's like, if Canada's gone in just a few years from, 6 months to live to, like, we're killing completely viable 21-year-olds, it's insanity and we shouldn't have it.
I thought we were kind of testing it out on the Isle of Man as well, because they had a vote about this, and I thought, all right, let's no one rock the boat yet. Let's just see how it works out over there, and if it's all cool, let's copy what they do. If it doesn't go all cool, it's a free island.
We're going to begin this section with the Sunday Telegraph. And Leo, Bridget Phillipson has hired a panel of experts who've got some bright ideas about social cohesion.
They've got some terrible ideas about social cohesion. So a Labour advisor claims that that failure to study anti-racism in schools fueled the summer riots. So this is Funmilola Stewart, a diversity and inclusion specialist. How can you specialise in something so nonsensical? That's like being a specialist in, like, I don't know, jelly. She said last month, actually jelly you could specialise in, she said last month that beliefs in that anti-racism in schools was inappropriate had contributed to the widespread unrest. So apparently people weren't angry that children had been stabbed to death. They were just, they hadn't had enough indoctrination in schools, and that's what, if we just indoctrinated people more to believe that diversity is strength, then when diversity isn't a strength and diversity kills children, we'll be fine with it. That seems to be the message here. So she went on to say, it comes from people questioning why we make everything about race instead of questioning people's prejudice. Again, like a lot of when people get angry at children being killed, it's not because they're prejudiced, it's because children being killed is a bad thing. Even I can see that. Like, I don't know why Labour can't. But she says it comes from a broken education system which fails to protect racially minoritized staff and students while simultaneously deeming anti-racist education inappropriate. I think this is the opposite of the truth. Like, it's a fear of looking racist means that kids are being accused of racism when they're not being racist, when they're just... Like, there's a child who was asked to describe their friend's skin colour, and the child said chocolate and was then accused of racism, and it was pensioners record it as a racist incident when they'd just been asked to describe their friend's skin colour, and they did exactly that. This focus on racism causes social friction. So native Brits are sort of put at the bottom of the pile, and anything they say is scrutinised and questioned as racist. Basically, we had, diversity killed children, and maybe we need to look at anti-white racism, and this shows the direction that Labour are moving in. Instead of trying to be a sort of equality, a Martin Luther King, judging people based on the content of their character type approach to society, they're instead still continuing with this insane drive to put people into categories based on their skin colour and other demographics, and judging people based on that, which is itself incredibly racist.
She's got an axe to grind, hasn't she? She's ideological. That's what she does for a living. I mean, turkeys don't vote for Christmas, and diversity people probably want more diversity stuff talked about. But Steve, I really like this. Dr. Alka Segal-Cuthbert, who's the director of Don't Divide Us, talks about stigmatising people who've got legitimate concerns. There might be, I'm sure there were a handful of far-right rioters. Of course there were people being violent and all of that. But what's typically always absent in these stories is the legitimate concerns. Yeah. Nobody's hearing what people are actually upset about.
Oh, look, in the large set of people who you could have said attended a protest or riot, it would include the subset of far-right people and the subset of people with genuine concerns. And it depends on which argument you wish to try and win. You ignore that one of them was there. That's what newspapers and everyone debating this has been doing. It's absolutely pointless, isn't it? There are some logical flaws in what she's saying as well. I mean, firstly, I do like you point out that quote where she says, instead of asking why do you make everything about race, we should look at that. You've avoided the question. Look at that. It's like Neo in the Matrix. Nowhere near. Yeah. But she says there wasn't enough anti-racism taught in schools. In schools they teach maths, and have you ever seen someone do a percentage? They nearly have a nosebleed. They go, I don't know how to do it. That stuff got taught, and it's not impacted adults. Plus, also, I saw some of the footage of these protests/riots. There weren't that many recently educated people. So how long will it take for your theory to pipe through? You can teach it now, and you've got to wait until they're in the 50s to stop rioting then. None of this makes sense. I think you hit the nail on the head. She might be protecting her own job.
So pensioners are warned they could lose their bus pass in 6 weeks because they're very forgetful. No, this is Labour. This is Labour taking another axe to a perk that pensioners, state pensioners, some of them fought in the Boer War, and this is how we reward them. This is disgusting. So millions of state pensioners were left stunned after Labour axed winter fuel payments for millions, 10 million exactly, of the elderly. But the future now looks even bleaker for pensioners following a recent exchange in Parliament where Conservative MP Louis French pressed the Prime Minister to rule out scrapping concessionary travel fares and council tax discounts, and Keir Starmer sidestepped, saying, I'm not going to preempt the budget. So he's obviously going to do it. Hints from both the Prime Minister and Chancellor Rachel Reeves suggest more austerity measures may be on the horizon. But the good news for pensioners is you'll probably be stabbed to death before this happens by one of the people Keir Starmer's released from prison. Steve is making faces as if to say it'll never happen. No, I'm saying this is not clearly a conclusion by deduction. He was asked, will you rule it out? He said, I'm not going to talk until the budget. Therefore, it must happen, says the expert. Haven't you ever seen Yes Minister, Steve? Of course it's going to happen. It really winds me up, though, because all the buses, they're already there. It's like we've got the infrastructure. What does it matter if somebody's getting on it at 11 a.m. to go to the library? Yeah. Don't take the bus passes. But we don't know that that's happening. Like, when the budget comes out and they get rid of bus passes, have that argument then. But until then, you're just doing that thing. Here's the format, right? Right-wing newspaper says Labour might do a thing, even though there's no evidence for it. There is evidence. No, there's not. There's a lack of evidence. He was asked a question and he didn't answer it. That is the deficit of evidence proving or disproving. I think we need to define evidence, don't we? We've all got different ideas. Right, let me finish the point there. Because so many of the stories go like this, and there's so much to attack Labour for, but what we do is, right-wing newspaper says Labour might do something, we go, well, I wouldn't put it past them because they want everyone to be migrants, and we don't touch the actual story or anything. There's so many reasons to genuinely attack them. This isn't one of them, yet. It will be, though. It definitely will be. And also, this is going to choke off. Will you talk about it on the show and go, actually, I was wrong about that? Or is it another one of these things where you only get to hint at the... I don't know if I will, because I've never been wrong. Okay. Oh, my God. I would love to ask your wife about that.